Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this talk about the risks and opportunities of artificial intelligence in pharmacy and how the Saskatchewan College of Pharmacy Professionals recommends that we approach these technologies. Over the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'll share some insights, practical advice, and guidelines to help us to navigate this evolving landscape. My name is Christelle Creel, and I'm a partner at the MLT Aikens office in Regina. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and recognizing that our offices in Western Canada are located on the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. It's important to our firm to honor the spirit of reconciliation and acknowledge the history of the lands that we're located on. Here's a bit of an agenda or a bit of a roadmap for us for today. We'll start with what AI actually is, look at the key risks, touch on the legal landscape, discuss practical steps for minimizing risk, and finish with the college's guidelines for pharmacy professionals. So let's start with the basics. What do we mean by artificial intelligence? In short, AI refers to systems that can process data and make decisions or generate content, sometimes with very little human input. You've probably heard of tools like ChatGPT or Gemini, and these are examples of AI that can analyze information and produce text, images, or recommendations. Think of AI as a tool that takes a prompt or a need, analyzes it using data and algorithms, and then produces an output. It's a bit like having a super fast assistant who can sift through mountains of information in seconds. One of the most talked about types of AI is generative AI. This is the technology behind chatbots and image generators. It learns from patterns and data and creates new content. And it's evolving very quickly with new capabilities emerging all the time. AI is really making some waves in healthcare as well. Most leaders in the field believe that it can boost efficiency, and many organizations are already using it in some way. For pharmacists, AI has the potential to make work more effective and productive. And the investment in AI is growing so rapidly that it's clear that this technology is here to stay. Of course, with any new technology comes new risks. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges we need to be aware of when we use AI tools. AI can introduce risks like privacy breaches, data theft, phishing, and even identity fraud. There's also the possibility of malware, inaccurate or misleading information, bias, loss of proprietary data, and issues around data storage and intellectual property. We also have this concept of AI being a bit of a black box. Are we transparent, or can we explain what AI is actually doing in the background? And if we can't, how can we rely on or evaluate the results or output from AI? One of the biggest concerns with AI is privacy and confidentiality. AI tools, especially in the pharmacy world, collects and stores personal health information that can be quite sensitive, and without proper safeguards, this can lead to breaches or loss of patient trust. There's a recent example out of Ontario where an AI tool that was being used to take some notes by a health professional was immediately sending all of that information to a number of other individuals that did not have a need to know or have any authority to actually access the patient information. So it's important to understand the types of tools that we use and the safeguards that are in place for them. Unfortunately, AI tools also are not immune to cyber threats. So if sensitive patient data is uploaded to an AI tool, which it often is, and that tool isn't secure, it could be vulnerable to theft by hackers. AI can be used to craft convincing phishing emails. So, for example, by analyzing social media or other public information, AI can mimic legitimate communications and trick people into clicking dangerous links. It used to be very clear and easy to see when something was a phishing email, and it's becoming much more difficult to do that, especially when someone, for example, has access to one of your business partners or patients' email addresses and they have an AI tool to make a phishing email to you sound very legitimate. AI can also be used to piece together information from different sources to create fake identities or to create and gain some unauthorized access to systems. This is just another reason for us to be cautious about the types of information that is shared with AI over time, especially when we don't trust or know that proper safeguards are in place for the information. AI is also being used to create sophisticated malware. Software recommended by trusted colleagues can sometimes even be compromised if we're not careful and we don't properly evaluate and do our due diligence on the safeguards for that AI tool. Unfortunately, generative AI also isn't perfect, so it can sometimes produce information that's just plain wrong. So, for example, a chatbot might give you incorrect advice about drug interactions, which could be dangerous if you don't double check that information. AI systems also learn from data, and if that data is biased, the AI can perpetuate those biases. So, this can lead to inconsistent or unfair treatment, especially for underrepresented groups. Some AI tools also learn from user inputs, which means that any confidential information that you provide to it could potentially be incorporated into future outputs, which creates both the risk for privacy and proprietary data. We've also learned of a number of cases where AI tools are unbeknownst to the people who are using them, actually using the information that you provide to the AI tool to train the AI tool and to provide answers to others. Data entered into AI systems may be stored in places that you don't control. This can be overseas or with other third party providers that you don't have insight into their storage and safeguard practices. This can really complicate compliance with privacy laws. If you're using AI to generate or use or build any of your intellectual property, there's a number of questions as well about who owns the outputs that are generated by AI and whether those outputs might infringe on someone else's rights. Some AI tools are also black boxes, and it's hard to know how they arrive at their recommendations. As pharmacy professionals, it will be important to understand and be able to explain how those tools work, especially when patient care is involved. So let's shift to the legal side. The rules around AI really are still evolving, and there's no single law governing its use in pharmacy yet. In Canada, several bills have been proposed to regulate artificial intelligence, but none have yet become law. And so until we have those rules in place, it's important to follow existing privacy laws, voluntary codes, and best practices. So, what can we do to protect ourselves and our patients? Here are some practical steps that are incorporated into the college's guidelines for pharmacy professionals on the use of AI. The first is to have a really clear policy on the use of AI in the pharmacy. It's important to assess the privacy and cybersecurity risks of any existing or new AI tool that you're considering using, to make sure that you do your homework on any vendor or other platform of an AI tool that you're considering using or that you're already using. Make sure that everyone is using AI after they receive appropriate training. Monitor how the AI is actually being used and enforce good practices for the use of AI. And stay up to date on those changes in the laws and guidelines for the use of AI. So if you have a look at the guidelines, they set out additional questions and answers and guidelines for you to follow these practical steps in the guidelines. So let's talk a little bit about what they say. So first off, using AI responsibly. So the guidance here boils down to a few key points, really. Make sure that you always follow professional standards applicable to you as a pharmacy professional. Make sure you understand the role of AI and that it's a tool and not a replacement for your judgment. Make sure that there are appropriate policies and trainings in place before using artificial intelligence. Be open about your use of artificial intelligence, especially when it affects patient care. You can do this by making sure that you document how you use AI and always keeping human oversight in the loop. And consider when patients come in with information that they may have generated that using AI tools or received information or guidance from an AI tool. It will be important for pharmacy professionals to be able to critically assess that information, explain the limitations of artificial intelligence, and remind patients that AI is really a supplement and not a substitute for professional advice. If you're interested in this area, the first step is to have a look at the guidance to learn more about what the guidance say. And I've included a number of other sources here that you may find interesting if you would like to stay informed on the developments in AI in this space. So to wrap up, AI offers a number of exciting possibilities for pharmacy, but it also raises a number of risks that we should be aware of when we're using those AI tools. So by following the college's guidelines, staying vigilant, and keeping patient care at the center, pharmacy professionals can use AI safely and efficiently. Thanks for your attention today. If you've got any questions, please reach out to the college, and I'm also happy to answer any questions if you'd like to reach out to me as well.